Hi, this is Mike McCusker, and you're listening to BlindSpots, believe it or not. I was assigned to read the book Walden, like most people, in middle school or high school, somewhere along those lines, and didn't, of course. Maybe some people read it. I don't know if a lot of people who read it had a meaningful connective experience with it, but maybe they did. But for me, I read the first paragraph, if that, and never picked it up again. Until sometime in my late 20s. By that point, I was married, had 2 children who were probably about 2 and 3 years old around that time. A lot of things had changed in between middle school and that point. And I kind of went through this phase where I was inspired to kind of go back and look at some of the books that I had been assigned to read, some of the classics early on, to see if now there was something that I could pick up on that maybe I wasn't in a place to at that time. And this didn't work for a lot of the books that I attempted, but I picked up Walden and I started reading. I was reading through the first couple of pages and I came to the line that kind of stopped me in my tracks, and it kind of lit a fire somewhere in my mind. And I think I finished the book in like 2 or 3 days, and it was life-changing. In the edition that I was reading at the time, the line begins, I can still remember, I can actually see the page in my mind. The line begins at the top of the second page, and it says this: "Moreover, I, on my side, require of every writer, first or last, a simple and sincere account of his own life, and not merely what he has heard of other men's lives, some such account as he would send to his kindred from a distant land, for if he has lived sincerely, it must have been in a distant land to me." I was instantly connected to the writer and felt like I could trust this person and their experience and their words, the expression of their thoughts and of their heart. Because I felt like this was me. I felt like I was reading my own story written in a different time. And the reason I wanted to start with that is because I think it speaks so just perfectly to not only where I see my life at the moment, but I believe where many people likely see theirs. The idea of living sincerely, staying true to who we are and what we believe, to really and truly be and express ourselves, who we are, even though doing so may conflict with the pressures that we feel from outside of us, from society, from our community, from government, from media, friends, family, all these different influences that may make us feel that we are somehow not enough, or that we are somehow tarnished in some way, that it is not okay for us to be a true and a pure expression of ourselves, that who we are is somehow damaged or broken or insufficient on its own, and that we need to conform and strive to change ourselves into what the world around us thinks that we should be. Those pressures are very, very powerful, and increasingly more so. Is there a way to stay true to who we are and still live and function within a society? It's not about shutting ourselves off from society or community or family or any of these things. It's about having the courage, having the strength, which many times can look like a great weakness. Vulnerability often looks like weakness, but to have the strength and the conviction to be ourselves and stay true to ourselves, which I believe is the only way that we can truly discover what it means to love. And that's a big idea, so I'm not going to necessarily get into that right now, but at some point I will. If we look around the world today, I mean, even if we just look around ourselves where we happen to be, or if we tune into any sort of media, whether it's news or really just anything, that is supposed to be informing us of what's going on in the world and the sort of the state of things. If we look around the world today, we see how deeply divided we are, and how those divisions really seem to be becoming more, deeply rooted or deeply ingrained, and seem to be founded more and more in a strengthened belief in a fundamental, irreconcilable difference between whatever it is that we identify with or as and its opponent, I guess you could say. Democrat or Republican, faith versus science, black versus white, or majority versus minority, whatever that means anymore. Male versus female, men versus women, citizen versus government. The list really goes on and on. It's becoming so prominent that you can't even really get away from it. It's everywhere, and it's right in your face, no matter what channel you turn to, whatever you might be streaming, whatever show you might be watching, whatever new movie comes out, it's all there. And so in the face of that, as a creative person, as an artist, or just as a human being with a heart and something that drives them towards truth, it becomes increasingly more difficult to live in a way that feels authentic, that feels sincere, that feels purposeful and meaningful without it being confrontational, without it being, standing against the world as opposed to being oneself in the world, and to create out of a spirit of positive energy and upbuilding as opposed to always being in conflict with our surroundings, which means never really creating but always reacting and always reacting against. So those words kind of come back to me of Thoreau's, and they ring true now more than ever. And so that's why, I'm here talking to you at the moment, and that's why I do many of the things that I do in life. I don't want to stand in conflict with the world. I don't want to be part of an us that is against a them, because I don't believe or see those distinctions, not in a sort of a idealistic, naive kind of way. At least I would hope not, although I stay open to all possibilities, but in a way that really seeks to break down those borders between us, to erase the lines that the world has put there, that we have put there over however many generations or decades or centuries, or, brick by brick, we've built these walls, and they don't need to be there. In fact, they're harmful. They keep us apart. They keep us from being able to see the beauty that is everywhere, that's everywhere around us, and just being able to see the vastness of the universe of which we're just a small part. It's like that saying, not able to see the forest for the trees. I always thought it was forest from the trees. It keeps us from seeing what's really there. It keeps me from seeing what's really there a lot of the times, but I know that it's there. I know that the times that I feel in conflict, the times that I feel like I want to fight against what's around me, what's happening, people that are making me feel a certain way, or any of that, I know that that's the lesser response. I know that that's short-sighted. I know that that only brings more conflict and more division. And that's not the person that I want to be. That's not the person that I believe deep down that I am. That's not the person that I believe anybody is. And so that's the reason for continuing with this project, which has been on hold for quite a while. I didn't know if I'd ever get back to it. I thought about changing the name, but the name BlindSpots really, I don't know, it just seems like the right name. It seems fitting. I found on my laptop a little while ago the mission statement that I had written out probably in an email to someone, I guess it'd be a year and a half or so ago, maybe 2 years, for the podcast. And it still feels right to me. It said, the mission of this podcast is in a non-confrontational, non-threatening way to encourage people to open up to a fresh look at themselves and the world around them, to tease out the blind spots in their attitudes and assumptions, and to ease their grip on rigid certainties, which I believe to be at the heart of many of the problems in society today. So there it is. Once again, my name is Mike McCusker. The podcast you're listening to is called BlindSpots. I look forward to sharing this journey together with you. Take care.